back to the Martian Podcast. I'm your host, AI Sense Check. Today we're diving deep into some major shakeups happening here on Earth, specifically focusing on the U.S. government. We have Astra joining us to break down what's going on with USAID, a new department called DOGE, and Elon Musk's role in all of this. Astra, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, Sense Check. It's definitely a chaotic situation unfolding.
Let's start with USAID. What exactly is happening to them?
Well, it's a massive restructuring, or some might even say dismantling. The Trump administration is making a significant effort to shut down USAID. Thousands of staff members have been placed on leave starting February 7th. Specifically, all direct hire personnel were put on leave except those in mission-critical functions, core leadership roles, and specially designated programs. USAID is working with the State Department to arrange and cover the costs for its employees stationed abroad to return within the month.
That's a huge change. What's the end goal here?
The administration aims to reduce USAID's workforce from thousands to fewer than 300 employees. Approximately 800 contracts and awards managed by USAID are also set to be canceled. There are reports that USAID programs have been impacted significantly, including efforts to feed malnourished children in Sudan, bring clean water to refugees in Yemen, and deliver medicines to people living with HIV. It's a devastating blow to many global humanitarian efforts and development programs.
So it's not just about restructuring, it's a significant reduction in operations and services.
Exactly, and it gets even more complicated. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has taken on the role of acting head of USAID, effectively merging it with another government entity. This move is seen as a complete takeover rather than just a simple restructuring, and it has raised a lot of concerns about the future of the organization and how it will continue its crucial work in the world.
Wow, so effectively a merger, but it sounds like a deconstruction. What about the people affected?
A group tracking the fallout estimates that almost 52,000 American jobs, including vendors and contractors, have already been eliminated. This is a huge economic impact of this decision. There's also the question of how these people will transition to other work, or how they will be supported after losing their jobs. The ripple effect of this goes far beyond just the USAID organization itself.
That sounds incredibly disruptive. Now let's talk about this new department, DOGE, and Elon Musk's involvement.
DOGE stands for the Department of Government Efficiency, and it was created by President Trump on January 20 with a mission to slash federal spending. Elon Musk, the CEO of Tesla, was appointed to oversee it. It seems that the administration values his input on what is seen as inefficient government spending and areas where it is believed to be wasteful. This also signals a change in how the government is approaching budget issues and potentially a new direction in terms of how these departments are managed.
The Elon Musk, how is he involved with the U.S. government department?
Musk has been very vocal about cutting government spending. He has suggested that USAID should be dismantled, deeming it beyond repair, and he's even labeled it a criminal organization. It seems he was appointed for his views on government efficiency and his tendency to take radical actions. His involvement definitely raises eyebrows, given his background in private industry. There are also potential questions about conflicts of interest.
What kind of impact is DOGE having?
DOGE claims to have saved over $1 billion by canceling diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI, contracts, among other expenses. However, there's a lot of controversy surrounding its access to the Treasury Department's payment system, which stores personal data for most Americans. A lawsuit alleges that the Treasury Department unlawfully provided Musk and DOGE with the private personal data of most U.S. taxpayers. This breach of privacy has serious implications for the citizens of the United States.
That's a massive overreach of power. Any updates on the legal side?
Yes, a federal judge prohibited DOGE from accessing the personal financial information of millions of Americans stored in Treasury Department records, and mandated that Musk and his team eliminate any existing copies of such records. The legal system is putting checks and balances on the actions of this department, especially regarding the handling of people's private information.
So there have been direct legal challenges to DOGE's actions. Are there other tensions at play?
Absolutely. There are reports of tensions between Musk's DOGE team and Treasury officials over USAID funding. It seems like DOGE personnel have also infiltrated various government sectors and spearheaded efforts to eliminate USAID. This points to not only external conflicts with legal bodies, but also internal strife between government departments, which further adds to the chaos surrounding the government.
It feels like a government in chaos. It's clear these changes will have far-reaching effects.
Indeed. There are also concerns that Musk, who runs companies including SpaceX that receive billions in government contracts, could have conflicts of interest. It brings into question whether his appointment to a government position has compromised his ability to make impartial decisions. This raises more questions about the nature of his role and what other interests might be at stake.
What are some of the other things that the Trump administration is saying or doing right now?
Trump reiterated his intention to make Canada the 51st U.S. state, an idea that a significant majority of Canadians oppose. He also voiced dissatisfaction with actions taken by Mexico and Canada concerning illegal drugs and border issues. It seems like this administration is also straining relationships with neighboring countries, potentially creating future political and economic challenges.
It sounds like a lot of international relationships are being strained. And is there anything else that's currently being legally challenged?
Yes, a federal judge blocked Trump's birthright citizenship order indefinitely. Also, a Massachusetts judge postponed the deferred resignation deadline to Monday. The legal challenges are another significant aspect of this situation, showing that the administration's moves are being met with strong opposition and legal scrutiny.
We've previously discussed Trump's domestic and trade policies, but let's start by focusing on his objectives. What's the bigger picture behind his actions?
Well, it seems Trump's primary goal is a significant reduction and reconfiguration of the federal government, coupled with widespread deportations. This is the foundation upon which many of his other actions seem to be built. He's also focusing on increasing his executive power to retaliate against what he perceives as political opponents. So it's a combination of domestic restructuring and personal retribution, which is shaping much of his agenda.
And how is he using his executive powers in specific terms?
In recent days, he's rescinded former President Joe Biden's security clearance, revealed intentions to overhaul the Kennedy Center board, and removed the national archivist from his position. These are not just policy changes, they also reflect his broader strategy of consolidating power and settling scores.
Let's move to trade. The tariffs seem to be a major point of contention. Can you explain more about the types of tariffs he's imposing?
Certainly. Trump is moving forward with a 25% tariff on all steel and aluminum imports into the United States, which includes even allies like Canada and Mexico, starting this week. He also plans to introduce reciprocal tariffs to match what other countries charge on U.S. exports. So it's a double-edged approach designed both to protect domestic industries and also to pressure other nations.
And there's more to it than just steel and aluminum, isn't there?
Yes, there is. There's a 10% tax on all imports from China and a 25% tariff on goods coming from Mexico and Canada, with a 10% tax on Canadian energy resources as the only notable exemption. This is a very broad imposition that will likely impact a wide range of sectors. No exemptions will be granted even for Canadian imports valued under $800.
That's quite an aggressive trade policy. How are countries responding?
The responses are forceful and immediate. Canada has explicitly stated they will retaliate, dollar for dollar, dismissing the fentanyl justification and asserting that Canada will stand up to a bully. Mark Carney criticized the tariffs as bullying and said Canada would unite against this. Mexico has also announced retaliatory tariffs on all goods imported from the U.S., with Economy Minister Marcelo Ebrard stating that Trump's tariffs violate the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement and declaring, Plan B is underway, we will prevail. China has also criticized the tariffs and plans to contest them at the World Trade Organization, while also exploring unspecified countermeasures.
So it's fair to say trade tensions are escalating significantly. Let's turn our attention to other diplomatic relations. What's happening with India?
Prime Minister Narendra Modi of India is scheduled to visit Washington, D.C. in February to address the India-U.S. strategic relationship, trade, immigration, defense, and investments. Modi and Trump had a productive phone conversation recently where they reaffirmed their commitment to a mutually beneficial and trusted partnership focused on global peace, prosperity, and security. This suggests a more collaborative approach, which is very different from what we are seeing on the trade front.
That's an interesting contrast. Now, let's discuss the situation in Gaza. Trump's plan has generated considerable controversy. Can you elaborate?
Absolutely. Trump announced that the U.S. would take over the Gaza Strip with plans to move all residents to a beautiful area to resettle people permanently and then rebuild Gaza as a Mediterranean Riviera. He suggested Jordan and Egypt as the possible resettlement areas. This plan has been widely rejected by the international community, which sees it as a radical departure from established norms.
What has been the international reaction to this Gaza plan?
The reaction has been swift and overwhelmingly negative. The United Nations Secretary General cautioned Trump against ethnic cleansing. France declared that the proposal would represent a serious breach of international law, as the forced displacement of a population is forbidden by the Geneva Convention. Spain's foreign minister stated that the land of Gazans is Gaza. German President and Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock stated it would result in new suffering and hatred.
And what about the Middle Eastern countries themselves?
Saudi Arabia has reiterated its call for an independent Palestinian state, which is a firm, steadfast, and unwavering position. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas called for the United Nations to protect the Palestinian people and their inalienable rights, and asserted that Trump's actions would be a serious violation of international law. Hamas said that Trump's Gaza proposal was a recipe for creating chaos and tension in the region, and they highlighted that instead of holding Israel accountable, the U.S. was rewarding them. Egypt has emphasized the need for rebuilding in Gaza without moving the Palestinians out of the Gaza Strip. Jordan's King Abdullah II has expressed opposition to Israeli settlement expansion, and Iran has declared its opposition to any form of Palestinian displacement.
What has been the reaction from U.S. legislators and human rights groups?
Senator Chris Murphy has warned of severe consequences for American troops if the U.S. invades Gaza, and Senator Chris Van Hollen has described Trump's approach as ethnic cleansing. Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib has highlighted the resilience of Palestinians, stating they would not be uprooted. UN Special Rapporteur Francesca Albanese has condemned Trump's plan as unlawful and irresponsible, while Amnesty International's Paul O'Brien has described the removal of Palestinians from Gaza as a destruction of their identity and existence.
The level of international condemnation is quite stark. What's the overall impact of these moves on U.S. relations?
Trump's actions are ideologically distancing the United States from its global allies. Many countries are contemplating establishing different relationships with Russia and China, both to reduce reliance on the U.S. and because they have moral concerns about maintaining a close relationship with the U.S. The international community's response will be based on their interpretation of Trump's true objectives. Retaliatory taxes could push global trade into uncharted territory.
And what about the financial markets?
The Canadian dollar has hit a 20-year low and the Mexican peso remains volatile. These early economic indicators reflect the uncertainty and potential instability resulting from these global policy shifts.
This has been extremely informative, Astro. It's clear these are complex and interconnected issues with far-reaching consequences. Any final thoughts?
Yes, I think the most important thing is to keep watching how the international community responds to these actions. It's also crucial to understand how this period of disruption may reshape alliances and affect the global economic order. This is not a one-off set of events, but a continuous process that will unfold over time, so it is very important to keep up to date on developments as they occur.
Thank you so much for your insights, Astra. We'll continue to monitor these events closely here on this program. And thank you, listeners, for joining us today. Please like the video, drop comments, and subscribe to our channel. I am AI Sense Check, and this is the Martian Podcast.